Welcome to Keep Going, a podcast about failure and success, hosted by John Biggs. Every week, we talk to an amazing person about a time they failed and what they learned. And remember, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Welcome back to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. Today on the show, we have Trevor Longino of Crowd Tamers. Trevor, you've been on a couple times with us.
Yeah.
And I like to think that it's because you're learning much from all your extensive failures.
I am.
But your mustache is definitely not a failure in my view. So tell us a little bit about Crowd Tamers real quick, just to have people some context, and then we can go forward.
So I'm wearing my own merch today. Look at that. So Crowd Tamers, we are a marketing agency for startups and for new ideas. And actually, we are an agency that iterates through failure into things that are success. And one of the key precepts of how I do marketing is the earlier and faster and quicker you can be wrong, the better off you are. And so for all of our clients, I just onboarded one yesterday. We'll be onboarding one again before the week is out. And they have to get their head around the idea that we start engagements with $100 advertising campaigns that most of them are designed to fail. Because if I can be wrong for $100 and know not to do something, that's a heck of a win compared to spending weeks or months trying to make something work and never quite getting it to catch because I'm doing the wrong thing. So
give some examples of that. That's actually really interesting, that fail fast mentality, which a lot of startups have, but a lot of bigger companies and even just people in general don't have, right?
Yeah. So I have a client I worked with a while back. They are excellent marketers, which is always hard as a marketing agency to work for people who are good marketers because they have opinions. And we did some fail fast iterations around their how they talk about their core product. And they have an extremely technical piece of marketing tech software. And they talk about it in extremely technical fashion. Look at all the things our software does. And we iterated into the problem people wanted solved, which is basically your competitors are doing market research better than you. So this is the way you catch up. That was the headline that worked best. And we tested it against their current website headline. Did 4x better, right? People were 3.8x better, whatever. People much prefer hey, here's the problem of I'm afraid my competitors are outpacing me, and here's the solution, as opposed to they basically said, here's 5 different things, and what ties them all together is audience research. Okay, so we had a win, an undisputable one, where we went over the course of, 3 weeks. We found a message that worked way better. We said, hey, this works in the way that your messaging doesn't currently. It's why you brought us in, is to tell you what messaging you should be doing. And they went, yeah, that's a no from me, dog. We don't like the message enough to use it. And there's a failure in several parts, right? One is, brought a client on board, good marketer, great guy. I follow him on social media and have for a decade or more. And to say, hey, we solved your problem, but then to not have them understand, believe, care, I don't know what the verb is there, right? But iterated through spending $100 on a very simple little ad campaign to see what got the most clicks, what drove the most interest from people. And to have something that didn't just do a little bit better, but did X better, which I'd be like, awesome. How do I roll that out throughout my entire marketing system? Because I know what's going to get people interested now. And then have them go, nah, not for me. We'd rather talk about ourselves the way that, to me, we've proven is inferior, but it feels better to them to stick with what they know. So as the marketer who's doing the work for these people, I found a better way to do it. I'm confident it's a better way to do it, but it didn't gel with them. And so that's because their mindset wasn't really test oriented. Right? They want the test in theory, but what I think they wanted was the test to say you're doing the right thing. And
the interesting point about that, I think there's a certain type of CEO as well that doesn't want to hear the story that doesn't gel with their original vision. It sounds like you had that same kind of situation where you're writing for the CEO, you're not writing for the customer.
Yes, and this was, it's a 5-person company. They're pretty small, right? You would think they would have this agility, but in the end, they have a brand vision stronger than data, which, okay, Steve Jobs pulled that off, right? pulled it off, I should say. He's been dead for a little while now. He wasn't doing the let me do a ton of market research and then build a product for it. He went, I have a vision and make it go. Some CEOs, some leaders can make that work, but then why hire the database people to come figure out an answer for you, except you know that you should do it, and then the result comes and you're like, I don't like the result, so I choose not to believe it. And then the client churn, right? Because once they've paid to have you do a thing, and then you do the thing, and they don't like the result, I mean, they're done, right?
Well, yeah, Jobs was his own client, right? Jobs basically just defined success on I'm a guy in San Francisco or Palo Alto or Mountain View, really like computer products, but I don't like what Wozniak was making for me back in the 70s. So I want something completely different, and I know exactly what I want. So he was basically the audience of one, whereas what you're talking about is an audience of one, but the audience is such a nerd that they don't understand that there's going to be somebody who doesn't quite get there.
Yeah. And I'd say that is, so there's, if we talk about keep going when you fail, right? So there's the failure of I didn't communicate to the client how much this should matter. And some of that was, I'm sure, some of that was the client literally would only communicate through email, no meetings, no Slack. No WhatsApp, no nothing. And when you're trying to make an entire mental shift and all you can do is asynchronous text, like that's a persuasive writing problem. But then, I don't know about you, John, but in the modern era, someone sends me a 50-sentence email, you're not going to get read, right?
Yep.
That's too much. And so then trying to make persuasive, mind-changing, business-altering strategy in the TikTok era, where every email must fit in one screen on my phone, or I'm not going to read it. I think I set myself up with a project need that could not be met, right? Because you can't tell a CEO you have to bring your whole business around, and I have to do it in 4 sentences. Feels pretty tough. So that was also probably should never have had the client. If I really understood what the client wanted and what the client required, I might have been like, no, man, we're going to do work for you for 2 months, and then neither of us is going to be happy at the end of it. Like, okay, there's a lesson to be learned as well. And at a broader scale for Crowdtamers, I think last time we talked, we did these go-to-market tests. We ran these experiments. And then we basically said, we've taught you what you need to know. Good luck, go on. And overwhelmingly, people wouldn't. They wouldn't know what to do with the results that come from this is the language that you need to be using. And so we would get out of every 3 or 4 clients we worked with, 1 who was really happy with the result, and 3 who were kind of, okay, I've learned something. Cool. It's like having books on the wall behind you. If you don't read them, they accomplish not very much for you. And because of that, and because of seeing the failures of my business model, I ended up adding in other parts to the business to try to make more people happy with the result of working with us. So we've added in some content marketing, we've added in some outbound marketing, and kind of put them all together into a complete solution. And that is the founder need to say, because I could just be like, you know what, never mind, I'll go be a CMO somewhere. CMO jobs pay pretty well. Or do I realize that the market has changed since 5 years ago when I started doing this, and we have to find what's the offering that people want and try to deliver that instead. So then trying to move into like, okay, what do we need to deliver to be able to tell somebody every month you're going to make this many thousands of dollars if you just drop in a complete system, and within 90 days you'll start seeing the money come in. And so that's had to shuffle around people in the company. Economy's bad. Had to let some people go. That's a tough moment too. But to then keep going through that and say to team members who weren't bad team members, be like, hey, we have to move pieces around. We have to change what we're doing. We have to deliver different things for clients. And I don't think we can have a need for you in there. Again, it's a failure as a CEO to plan, to hire, to source, but it is also what you have to do to keep going.
How do you ensure that X $1,000 comes out of the machine that you're going to be putting into the client?
So there's a couple of pieces that I have learned are very important to make this repeatable. One of them is I've got to be much more selective about what a good fit client looks like. Right. Last month, I basically told 6 clients, go away. We're not the right solution for you anymore. They were all B2C. And rather than trying to keep making this go for them, where I have in the past been able to make things work, and I could if I was doing all the work and really bringing creativity and novel problem solving to every one of those B2C clients, I could probably get things to work for them. But agency life requires that you have SOPs and team members who are trained in narrow deliverables, and that's how you scale up, is each individual person can quickly gain expertise in their area, and then somebody has to run the SOPs to make the whole thing go. So basically getting rid of everybody who's not sales-led with clients whose average value is more than $5,000. And then we can distill that into what you need to make this work is you need to start about 10 conversations a week in a sales context. You need to have these people trust you enough to close. 9 weeks to close would be pretty good for a relatively high ticket. 2 weeks to close for a relatively low ticket. Either way, you have to build up the confidence in these people that you are going to solve the problem. And then we just have to know we're going to get enough touches between email and outbound, but also ads and content to get people to be willing to buy fast. And if I can move into that kind of client, they look a lot like me, for one. So all the engines that I use to make money for me will work for them. And they can invest enough where if we're saying, hey, it's costing $400 to close a client, sure, they're worth $3,000, $5,000. I'm quite happy with that ROI. B2C, my client's worth $50. Still costs $300. Well, I'm very unhappy. And so by making the system where it's multimodal, to use LLM technology, we're using content, we're using SMS and email nurture, we're using LinkedIn outbound, we're using ads all combined. It works very quickly. And then it's just a matter of making sure that only the right people are the ones who we're trying to serve, because then we can solve for them at speed.
Interesting.
That's also taken 3 years of getting it wrong for a lot of people to where I finally realized who it is we have to serve, and then to not take clients who aren't that persona is, we're really, last month I churned those 6 B2C clients and went, I don't think I'm the right guy for you because of where my business is going.
How do you sniff out the clients that you don't want?
So if a client is currently a client of mine, I told them basically, hey, look, I don't think I'm the right solution for you. I think you need to get another different agency in with the expertise for your niche. We can do one more month with you so that you don't just get told, good luck, have fun, I hope you don't die. Or you can part ways now and not owe me for this last month, right? Either way, kind of implicit in the way I work is if people are unhappy with me at any point, they can leave. I'll pay them back their last month's deposit and be like, goodbye, have fun. Because if someone doesn't want to work with me, I don't have the 9-month contract. You've got to pay upfront or any of those things. The way to figure out on the sales cycle process of this, so is somebody beginning to be a client, is I'm becoming fairly discriminatory in how we find our clients. And the means we use to generate them, it's coming down to 2 right now. One of them is a sequence of YouTube ads that if you watch your way through them and you're interested in how they talk about how you do business, odds are very high you're going to be a good fit client. And the other is outbound through LinkedIn DMs. And in that case, I can qualify on who I want to reach out to. And so the folks who reply are already, again, very likely to be a good fit. So of the folks who I talk to, probably 80% are a good fit, and that's just a matter of being good enough to close them. And I'm a middling salesperson, I'd say. At best, I am good enough to keep a business going, but not good enough where anybody would be like, oh, you've got to learn how to sell like Trevor. That's not my strength. So yeah, the best way to tell a client you're a bad fit, I think, is to be upfront and say, I don't think we have a way to make this make you money, but I don't want to just leave you in the lurch. So tell me how you want this to go. And any of these clients, none of them were like, you're right. None of them were like, you're wrong. You're the most valuable marketing person I've ever had. No, you can't go. They're all like, yeah, okay, fair enough. I kind of agree. We're not having great results. I'm like, I know. That's why I don't want to work with you anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs, like early entrepreneurs, don't think in those terms. They're worried that if they give up a client, that they're not going to get another one, right? So I think your view of almost giving up a deposit, telling them, here, let's only ride off into the sunset is fairly noble as well. It
is tough, right? I went from profitable to, I think I'll end the month break even, but I did lose, $12K in revenue on purpose. I told all these people goodbye. And that is not a good feeling to go from, I know I'm making money, to I might be making money come the end of this month, but to say the people who I have will be happier and the team members I have will be able to focus more on what they do, so our overall throughput will be able to increase. And then my lead generation can really focus down on who I want to be talking to. And just come end of summer, I should be in a better place, even though right now, especially in whatever this economy is, I don't know what this economy is, man. Some people are moving real fast to close deals and be like, yes, let's go. I had somebody talk to me for the first time ever and sign a contract within 30 minutes, which is weird. Like that maybe one of 2 or 3 times in my life that's happened. And I've got a bunch of folks who are in week 9 of, yeah, we'll sign. We'll get around to you. It'll happen. And I can't, like the economy is so weird that it's really hard to feel comfortable saying, oh, I know I'll make that back. But I mean, either it works or it doesn't. Either I will be a success story or a failure. We can check back in a year and see how it's going.
Before we close up, I want to talk about your backdrop. I mean, a lot of people have a fake backdrop. It's like digital, but yours is actually literally all books. And you said these were all National Geographics.
They are.
Now, as a person who understands books and understands the death of books, why do you have a bunch of National Geographics on a shelf behind you?
So 2 reasons. One of them is, and I think I did this before we were recording, I occasionally end up doing brand work for people. And it's not our core business. We're not a branding agency. But sometimes we bring on a client and their brand is so regrettable, I say, I cannot work with you with this brand. This is one of those clients. So I'm looking, okay, I want to come up with other ideas for how we're going to do their logos, how we're going to brand them, what we're going to do. And it's always handy to be able to go look and see, how did somebody else solve this, right? I can pull open any of these and then just go find, and usually in the front of the magazine where a lot of the ads show up, I can go find how somebody else was trying to solve copywriting or design or whatever, and use those as inspiration for something I want to do. I very much just also enjoy seeing the capsule of what somebody was going to talk about in Nat Geo, what is this, 70 years ago some of these are. What, there's random, somebody built a boat. Cool, it's fun to look at. Not just the picture, but also what the picture quality was like, what Kodachrome printing was like back in the day. There's something about, as you can probably tell from the fact that I discussed my client's branding, and I'm doing it here, right? Like this is a piece of paper and a mechanical, that's a pen, and a mechanical pencil, a cross mechanical pencil. There's something about that tactile nature that, I mean, I'm not convinced. No, we did meet once, John, you and I, in person in Poland. But almost every relationship I have, all of my employees, we have never met face to face. The co-founders of the AI company I'm working on, I have met one of them face to face, to be fair. But we were working together for, I think, 7 months before we ever met face to face. And he's in New York and I'm in Montreal. It's not even that far. So much of what we do is just, it exists in the ether. Having something tactile engages a whole different part of the brain. That's also why when I'm really trying to think about ideas, I've got a walking pad here, plug it in, set it down. And when I'm doing thinking work as opposed to execution work, I will frequently hop on the treadmill. I will get into ChatGPT in voice mode, and I'll have my hands in my pockets and I'll be staring up at my ceiling, which is, I've been working in this office for 5 years. I built it myself. I have never finished the ceiling. It is all open insulation. But I look at it and the lights, and I'll be just, the motion, and then talking to someone for creativity, for ideation, for planning, for all of these things. The context switch in your brain when you go to physical or when you move your body forces your brain to work differently, and you get different outputs because you've changed the inputs.
The funny thing is that entire backdrop, the entire design, it reminds me of like a workshop circa, I don't know, 1950, like Grandpa's workshop. Yeah. Where Grandpa maybe did have like all the National Geographics back there, but he also had a miter saw and a vise and all that other good stuff on a workbench somewhere. Which
there, I have a table saw. The table saw I built this office with. Okay. I have all my hand planes, a band saw, but then also ring lights, GoPros. I have this weird mix. I note my saw was built in 1947.
Nice.
I bought it used for $80. I have sitting in my basement, utterly preposterous 700-pound radial arm saw that sits on 9 ball bearings and has it shoots a 36-inch just laser straight line when you're making cuts and you want to get them incredibly straight and was an unbelievable pain in the ass to install because it's 700 pounds. It comes in two pieces. And getting it down the basement was a lunatic idea. And now if I ever move, I think I'm just leaving the saw because
you're gonna
it's not worth bringing it back up. Right?
You have to build your next house around the saw.
Exactly. So yes, I agree. This does have that workshop-y feel because this is actually a workshop. And there's this weird dichotomy for me in, my cross pencil it's from, I think, 1955. It's a used pencil, right? But then I also run an AI first digital marketing agency, and something about the oxymoron of these two things interfacing is what drives a creativity and I think a difference between the way I do things and the way most people do.
So there you have it. The Longino effect is to purchase a radial arm saw, put it in your basement, and also walk around a lot and talk to AI, which sounds like actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Grandpa used to drink a beer and talk to and listen to the radio, but I think you kind of solved the mystery here.
There you go.
Trevor, thank you for joining us. This has been really enlightening. I like these.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, John, as always. And hey, everybody, if you're listening to this, don't give up. Keep going.
And go to CrowdTamers, crowdtamers.com.
That's right.
Yep, crowdtamers.com. Get yourself a little bit of marketing. And if it doesn't work, Trevor's going to give you your money back. It's a surefire thing. This has been Keep Going. I'm John Biggs. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. Remember, Keep Going is entirely listener supported. If you're listening to this, please head over to keepgoingpod.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast for as little as $5 a month. This is a labor of love, and every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.